Hi, everybody. My name is Greg Katz, and welcome to Thursday's second half kickoff edition of WeAreSC.com's Inside the Trojans Huddle, where we tell it like it is. Friends, Inside the Trojans Huddle is a game-like panel discussion that is posted on Tuesdays and Thursdays on WeAreSC.com and features WeAreSC.com columnists, staff writers, and historians. We first start off with the pregame show where we introduce our panel members for this edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, and then give you the latest USC football news. Let's meet Thursday's panelists. A WeAreSC columnist who writes WeAreSC.com's Monday Morass, Yay or Nay, and Sunday Takeaways. In addition to regular season football and basketball practice reports, he also hosts his own podcast show entitled Locked On USC, Marc Kulkin. And a former William Jewell College defensive back and WeAreSC columnist who writes the popular WeAreSC.com column Musings with Arledge, and has his own weekly WeAreSC.com video show, Musings with Arledge, and is a graduate of the USC Law School, Chris Arledge, and a weekly WeAreSC columnist who writes Fridays, The Obvious Not So Obvious, IMHO Sunday, and is an active member of the Football Writers Association of America. Your moderator and producer of Inside the Trojans Huddle, I'm Greg Katz. Before we kick off Thursday's edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle, here are some USC football news heading into the weekend. The Trojans opened up a 5-point favorite to defeat Notre Dame in the Coliseum on Saturday night. Game kicks off at 4:30 p.m. That's Pacific time, and will be broadcast or telecast nationally on ABC. More in this game coming up here in the second half kickoff. Online betting has now made Trojans quarterback Caleb Williams a 12-1 favorite as its choice for the Heisman Trophy, ahead of Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud, a 5-1 Michigan running back, Corum, he's a 40-1 choice. And Oregon quarterback Bo Nix is a 66-1 choice. Those are their in order choices. Ironically, Notre Dame was the victim of that 2002 winning Carson Palmer drive to the Heisman Trophy. It basically solidified his trophy for him. So Notre Dame and Caleb Williams can make a big statement coming up. Also, Saturday night is pregame activities. The Trojans will salute the Trojans football players playing their last game at home for the Cardinal and Gold, and they will be saluted beforehand. And as a courtesy reminder for those of you that are not currently a subscriber member of WeAreSC.com, right now for $10 you can access all the WeAreSC premium stories, analysis, and videos. The current new member deal gives you complete coverage throughout the season, the bowl game recruiting, spring football, all the way up to next season's WeAreSC.com cycle, which ends on August 31st, 2023. So with that, we begin the third quarter and the second half kickoff, taking a look at the number 5 Trojans and the number 13 Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This will be the 93rd intersectional rivalry between USC and Notre Dame, which began in 1926 between coaches Newt Rockne of Notre Dame and Howard Jones of USC. Thus far, Notre Dame leads the series 50-36 and 5 ties. The Trojans will be looking to snap a Notre Dame 4-game winning streak that began in 2017. Two teams did not play during the 2020 COVID season. In 2022, under first-year head coach Marcus Freeman, who replaced Brian Kelly, who's now at LSU, the Irish originally returned 12 starters from last season, 8 on offense and 4 on defense. The Irish come to the Coliseum, as we said, with a 5-game winning streak, having beaten Boston College last weekend 44-0 in Notre Dame Stadium. The number 13 Irish are now 8-3 as they complete their season in Los Angeles. Early this season, Notre Dame lost starting quarterback sophomore Tyler Buckner from San Diego area for the season with a shoulder injury during a loss to Marshall. And the Irish were forced to go with a young man from Connecticut, junior Drew Pine, spells his last name P-Y-N-E, but pronounced Pine. With Pine at quarterback, Notre Dame lost 2 of their defeats without Buckner. For the record, Notre Dame losses have been to Ohio State 21-10, at home to Marshall 26-21, and at home against Stanford 16-14. The Irish did play and beat Cal at home 24-17, a team that USC beat in the Collie 41-35. Both the Irish and the Trojans played Stanford, with the Trojans winning 41-28, and the Irish, as we said, losing in South Bend, 16-14. Notre Dame has morphed into a run-first offense, highlighted by running back Audric Estime, junior tight end, all-star Michael Meyer, a strong offensive line led by senior All-America candidate Jared Patterson. And on defense, the Irish have talent. They're led by safety DJ Brown and defensive lineman Jason Abdumolia. So, panel, it's the Trojans and the Irish. How are they different? How are they the same? Mark, what do you see?
They couldn't be any more different than USC and UCLA. Look, Notre Dame wants to simply run the ball. They fear having to throw the ball. I mean, they literally do not want to do it. So if USC, if they get ahead by 2 touchdowns, this game is going to tilt in USC's favor dramatically. As long as USC doesn't turn the ball over and they don't create a lot of dumb penalties, they're going to beat this Notre Dame team. If Notre Dame barely was able, look, I understand they're on a 5-game winning streak. They're not, people like to make fun of USC's schedule. Notre Dame's schedule isn't anything to like wave the pom-poms about. They lost to Stanford. They should have lost to Cal. They're just not a good team. They lost to Marshall. USC just has way too much offense, and with a lot on the line, this is USC's year to break that 4-game losing streak.
Chris, how do you see it? How are they different? How are they the same?
Well, I suppose they're the same in that they have both had some games where they didn't play 4 quarters of football. But that's about it, because USC has managed to win all those games except one, which was against a top 15 team on the road in a very close game. Notre Dame has, Mark's already hit it. Notre Dame's quarterback is poor. Their wide receivers are just guys. They have a great tight end and a pretty good running game, but it's not fantastic. I mean, you don't lose at home to Marshall, who's a 7-4 team in a no-name conference. You don't lose to the worst Stanford team in 20 years if you're a good football team. They're not a good football team. They're okay, and if you play to their strengths, which is as Clemson had to do because of Clemson's quarterback issues, you have to run up and just run off tackle with them all day. They might be able to make some things happen, but they're not a very good football team. They're just okay. They're trying to turn things around. The reality is they haven't beaten, other than Clemson, they haven't beaten anybody good all year. And I know they say the same thing about USC, but I think USC has better teams in their schedule than Notre Dame has on theirs. So that's how they're different. That's how they're the same. They're different because USC's better.
One more similarity. Young head coaches. Marcus Freeman's a rookie head coach, though. And, we talked about clock management. We'll see how Marcus Freeman handles clock management on the road versus USC's offense. Go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's interesting because Tommy Rees is the offensive coordinator for Notre Dame. His dad coached a long time under Terry Donahue as an offensive guy and in charge of their recruiting. So I got to meet him a number of times. He's going to be very careful coming into the Coliseum because he knows that they can't get into a scoring race. They can't get into a boat race with USC. They're going to try to shorten the game. SC is going to just try to pile on points. I don't think there's any way that Notre Dame could keep up with them in theory points-wise. So it's 2 different strategies. SC is going to be going for it right down the field. Notre Dame is going to try to establish the run. They've got a real strong offensive line. It's gotten better over the season. But, this Notre Dame team was all designed for Tyler Buckner, who was an option quarterback out of San Diego. And if they don't have him operating, this is when it really shows, when you have a backup quarterback who didn't do bad against Boston College, but this isn't Boston College. There's so much on the line, even for Notre Dame in this game, where we talk about what SC's got on the line. For Notre Dame, they're going to either be 8-3 going to 9-3, or they're going to be 8-4. That can be a big difference in a bowl game selection. So they've got a lot to play for, and it's their last game as well. But I think if SC does what they should do, which leads us to the next question: what must USC do to win the game, and what can they not afford to do? Mark, how do you see it?
Yeah, just run your offense. Don't turn the ball over. Don't, do anything stupid. And all of a sudden make Notre Dame a big play offense when you're playing defense. You accomplish those simple things, USC is going to win this game. It comes down to that. I mean, we've said it. Notre Dame does not have a team on offense that can keep up with USC. So if they don't turn the ball over and give away possessions, I don't know if Notre Dame can stand for this game enough. In other words, slow the game down enough where USC doesn't have enough possessions to score.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, USC can't afford to let Michael Mayer run around the middle of the field unchallenged. Right. That's a problem, because we've seen that we've seen them do just that, and even last week, the kid didn't have a ton of catches, but he had 3 touchdowns. USC needs to do something about that tight end. Yeah. USC needs to be able to protect Caleb Williams. USC has an elite or Notre Dame has an elite pass rusher. I don't know that, and an elite safety. They have some defensive talent that's pretty good. They're not Georgia defensively, and frankly, their defense isn't as talented or as accomplished as USC's offense is. But if they can make USC one-dimensional, if they can then keep Caleb Williams in the pocket and harass him, and if they can force a turnover or two, then this can be a game in the second half, and then all bets are off. So USC needs to protect the football. They need to protect Caleb Williams, and they need to find a way to slow down Michael Mayer, because I don't think Notre Dame has an answer offensively if Mayer doesn't have a big day.
Well, I think that SC has to they have to jump out to a big lead in the first half. They have to force Notre Dame to play fast to get back in the game. If not, I agree with Chris. The second half, it could be tough sledding, because if Notre Dame goes on drives of 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and ends up scoring, then that becomes problematic. But I think, USC has, they didn't jump out to a big lead this last game, but I think they'll be fired up for it. I think they will score in the first half. I don't think Notre Dame is really capable of coming back, but if you thought that Dalton Kincaid was good as a tight end for Utah, I can tell you Michael Mayer is he's much better. And believe me, Reese will be looking at that Utah film like crazy to see what patterns gave USC biggest problems. And I'm sure that Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator of USC, will be telling his guys, you can expect to see this. I think one thing I think we could all agree on is that the crowd is very interesting. When you go back to Notre Dame, SC has a nice turnout, sometimes very nice turnout. But in the golden times when UCL or USC and Notre Dame play in the Coliseum, I remember the first time I went, I just could not believe the amount of Notre Dame fans that were there. Now, I don't know if this Notre Dame is stimulating enough for people to come out from the Midwest to come to LA. But when Notre Dame is good, they do come out. And which leads me to this question: predictions on Saturday's attendance and how that could be a factor. Mark, how important is the attendance on Saturday and participation of USC fans?
Well, I think it's important. I mean, we already agree that it's going to be sold out. We answered the fan question in our Tuesday show. So it's a matter of how greedy do the Trojan family a group of fans want to be? Are they going to sell their tickets to try and reap some financial reward? It's going to be sold out. I think it's going to be a pro USC crowd because they've been waiting so long for USC to get back to this moment. And I don't think you can put a price tag on that. So sold out Coliseum, if the Coliseum has the same energy that the Rose Bowl crowd had, it's going to be a fun atmosphere.
Chris, what do you think? How is the attendance going to play into it? You've been to SC Notre Dame games in the Coliseum. What is your expectations?
I think the game will be a sellout. There's always a good Irish turnout. Although once you shrink the stadium by 15,000, that's probably 15,000 less Notre Dame fans, is my guess. Look, the problem with USC is not just that they don't bring fans to the games. It's that even when there's a good crowd, it tends to be a quiet crowd. USC fans really need to get excited, to get worked up. I think this is a game people are going to be excited. I mean, when there was some excitement when Lincoln Riley was hired, I think people figured that USC was going to start to turn things around. But right now, I think it's starting to dawn on people that USC is 2 winnable games away from making the college football playoff for the first time, and that USC has a decent chance to get its 8th Heisman Trophy, and nobody else has done that. I think people are going to be excited, and I think they're going to be loud, and I think that will help. I think it's going to help. Drew Pine is not only is he a mediocre quarterback, but he's not a quarterback with a lot of experience. He's a kid that's walking into a very big game with very bright lights. On the other sideline is the best player in the country, and he's looking at that, and he is as nervous as can be. So yeah, I mean, a loud, lively crowd that gets a false start or two early in the game and puts Notre Dame behind the sticks, so they have to throw the ball. That would matter. I think we'll see that. I hope we'll see that. I'm going to be screaming, although my throat is a mess right now. I've got to really recover between now and Saturday. Otherwise, I don't know if I can do my part.
Well, you'll have to do some tonsil push-ups. Yeah, I think the attendance should be great. But I had a discussion today with a high school teammate of mine about this whole thing about the attendance on Saturday. Not to delve on the past, but USC people by tradition have always gone to big games. They've always shown up for the big games for the most part. But that lull of the last decade slowly shrunk a lot of the people who are now 10 years older. And I was saying, who replaces the enthusiasm of the lifetime fans like yourselves? Okay. Do they understand that this is, and I think Chris hit the nail on the head. I mean, you're 2 games away from maybe the college football playoffs. Now, do I think that SC fans could end up going to Las Vegas? Yeah, because it's Las Vegas and they could get excited about that. But the Notre Dame game is such a big game historically that I would hope they won't sit there and watch Chris Fowler and Kurt Herbstreit call the game on television. It's at 4:30. I don't know what better time you could have based on what we've been going through the last several games. 5 o'clock kickoff was like nirvana for me. 4:30 is a little bit nicer. But I think the crowd will make a difference if they get into it early. I know that SC has tried to do a really good job of getting the crowd involved with DJ. What is it, Mark? What's his name?
DJ
Malski. Yeah. I mean, they reasonably doing a good job with it, but I don't know. I think when the SC fans see those Golden Dome helmets coming out, you'll get a sense that where everybody's at. So it should be interesting. All right. Now we go into the tradition of Inside the Trojans Huddle and a symbolic tribute between the third and fourth quarter of our little broadcast here with the lighting of the WeAreSC version of the Coliseum Olympic torch as we transition to our Big Ten lightning round questions, rapid fire questions, rapid fire answers. Here are your Big Ten questions. This being Notre Dame week, we'll be asking for your overs and unders or specific yes or no opinions. So if you're ready, here we go. We'll go in the order of Chris, Mark, and myself. Question one. The Trojans are averaging 42.9 points per game. Will they score over or under against the Irish? Chris.
They're going to score under. Notre Dame plays decent defense, and they're going to try to slow down the game.
Mark?
44-13 will be the final score.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
44-13 will be the final score.
Okay.
20-year reunion.
Please let that happen.
All right. I say it's going to be I'm going to be positive here. I'm going to say it's going to be slightly over that, but it wouldn't shock me if it was under that. But I'll for the record, I'll say it's going to be over. All right, question two. The Trojans are giving up 26.7 points per game on defense. Will the Irish score over or under the Trojans' defensive points average? Chris?
I think under. I think they're going to, I think they're going to try to slow down the game, and I think they're going to be in the low 20s.
Okay, Mark?
Under.
You're saying under? I'm going to say slightly under, but it's still under. All right, question three. The Trojans average 182.2 rushing yards per game. Will the Trojans gain over or under their rushing average against the Irish? Chris?
Under by a little bit.
Mark?
Under.
Under? Okay.
Yes.
I think the Trojans will have under that amount of rushing myself. All right. Question four. The Trojans defense averages 147.2 yards per game against the rush. Will the Irish gain over or under the Trojans rushing defensive average? Chris?
I'm going to go under, actually. I think that Notre Dame is going to have to throw the ball to get back in the game.
Good point. Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to go over.
And I'm going to go over too. I think that Notre Dame will get over 147 yards rushing, but I think Chris's point is well taken. Question
By the
five.
way, guys, we think of Notre Dame as a great running team. You know, they only average 9 more yards rushing per game than USC, and they average 0.8 yards per rushing attempt less than USC. USC is arguably a better rushing team than Notre Dame is, for what it's worth.
Okay, well, we'll see if that checks out. Question five, the Trojans averaged 330 yards, 0.82 yards passing per game against the Irish. Will they be over or under their passing average on Saturday against the Irish? Chris?
Big over. Caleb Williams is going to light them up and ice the Heisman Trophy.
Mark?
Yeah, I got 420 plus.
Okay, and I think they're going to go well over that too. So could be a tough day for the Irish in the second. Question six, the Trojans defense allows 257.82 passing yards per game. Will the Irish pass over or under the Trojans defensive pass coverage average? Chris?
Under. Drew Pine is in a world of hurt. Kid can't play.
Okay. Mark, what do you
Yeah.
what do you think?
Under. If he's over that, USC's losing the game.
And I agree. I think it's got to be under for the Trojans to really hang in there. Question seven, the Trojans average 61.91 penalty yards per game against the Irish on Saturday. Will USC be over or under their penalty average? Chris?
This is a non-conference game. Does that mean it's not Pac-12 officials? I think that's what it means.
No, it might be Big Ten officials.
I think usually it means that it's not Pac-12 officials. If it's not Pac-12 officials, I'm going under.
Mark?
Under.
I'm going to say under. It depends on whether they're going to let them play. Question 8. The Irish average 55.7 penalty yards per game. Will they be over or under against the Trojans on Saturday? Chris?
Notre Dame will be under those penalty yards.
Mark?
I'm going over because they're going to have too many pass interference penalties trying to keep the receivers from scoring touchdowns.
I agree with Mark. I think that they're going to go over 55-7. It seems inconceivable that Notre Dame secondary won't be grabbing onto jerseys. Question 9, the Trojans still have no fumbles the entire season up to this point. Crazy. Will the Irish have more turnovers than USC, yes or no? Chris?
Who do you think is likely to throw less picks, Caleb Williams or Drew Pine? The answer is that Notre Dame is going to have at least 2 turnovers more than USC.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, Notre Dame. USC will win the turnover margin. And
I agree. They'll win the turnover margin. Question 10. The Trojans are favored by 5 points over the Irish. Will USC be over or under that point spread? Chris?
Over. 38-22.
All right. Mark?
It already dropped from 6.5?
No, that was the opening line.
That's 5. What I said. It's already moved?
I saw a couple different opening numbers. 6.5 was one and 5 was another. Right. So
yeah, I already said it. It's a 20-year reunion, 44-13. So they're covering.
I think SC will be well over a 5-point spread. I don't know how they get 5 points when you put Caleb Williams against Pine. It's a no contest. All right, let's get ready for the fourth quarter here. Is it possible that USC conceivably could be looking past Notre Dame to the Pac-12 championship game the following Friday in Las Vegas? What say you, Chris?
0 chance. I know they want to win the conference, but there is 0 chance of looking past Notre Dame. It is the primetime game of the week against a major rival, and USC is trying to get in the college football playoff. It's 0 chance.
Mark, you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, I think the reason why USC has started out slowly their last 3 games is they were looking past those games to Notre Dame. So, yeah, there's 0 chance that they're going to look past these guys with what's at stake. Yeah, not happening. Not with this coaching staff.
I agree with you. I think that SCs will use Notre Dame as a stepping stone to the what's their ultimate goal right now? Is it really the Pac-12 championship, or is it to get to the playoffs? And to get to the playoffs, they have to beat Notre Dame. They have to win the Pac-12 championship, and then good things are probably going to happen. So I don't think that SC will be looking past it. I think as soon as Notre Dame shows up, comes out of the tunnel in that gold helmet, and the fans start getting really into it, they'll be focused. And Kevin Bruce told me that the Notre Dame game is just an absolute Donnybrook inside. Guys are whacking each other. It's not hard to get focused in on the game if you don't start in on the game. All right, panel. What are the chances of USC getting into the college football playoffs top 4 after the results of this weekend's #1 Georgia is hosting Georgia Tech, #2 Ohio State is hosting #3 Michigan, and #4 TCU is hosting Iowa State? Is there any way that any of those games are going to affect if USC can beat Notre Dame? Or is SC locked into where they're at for right now?
Ohio State probably beats Michigan. And if so, USC moves up to #4. I don't think TCU will lose to Iowa State, although they may lose to K-State the next week. But USC fans don't have to worry about this. If USC wins their next 2 games, they're in the top 4. It is absolutely positively going to happen without question. Tennessee's loss cemented that. They are in if they win out.
Well, let me ask you this question, Chris, because you brought it up. What would happen, in your opinion, if Ohio State and Michigan end up, let's say, just for argument's sake, 21-20?
If Ohio State loses, USC has a potential problem. If Ohio State wins, there's no problem. Michigan has played one of the weakest schedules in the country. And remember, one of the things that the committee is supposed to take into account is whether you win your conference. That's supposed to be a major factor. And in order to let a non-conference winner in over a conference winner, it has to be I can't remember the language they use, but it has to be clear that the non-conference winner is a better football team. If USC beats UCLA, beats Notre Dame, beats Oregon or Utah, whoever it's going to be in the Pac-12 championship game, their resume is far superior to Michigan's. There's no way and frankly, probably far superior to Ohio State's too. Only once has a conference winner with one loss been left out of the playoff. And that was not a team that had a likely Heisman Trophy winner, one of the 3 or 4 best coaches in college football, and the name brand of USC. It will not happen. If USC wins out, they're in. We may not like what we see when we get there, but they're going to be in.
Mark, you agree with that?
Yes, I do. In fact, I think the goal isn't the 4th spot. The goal is actually getting to number 3, and that's very possible. Chris touched on it. There's a common denominator here in Ohio, in Notre Dame. What was the score in that Ohio State game when they beat Notre Dame?
21-10.
21-10. If USC, and I understand that was at the beginning of the season, but if USC can, put the foot on the neck of Notre Dame, snap it, and beat them 44-13, now the committee's got to look at, okay, how good is this USC team? Because again, TCU, they have Iowa State and Kansas State. If they finish undefeated, they're in. I don't think you're going to keep out a TCU undefeated from a major conference.
Yep.
But that Ohio State-Michigan game, that's interesting. Because I don't think anybody anticipates LSU jumping up and biting Georgia in the SEC championship game. So if that Ohio State-Michigan game is ugly, and USC just continues to look impressive against Notre Dame in the Pac-12 championship game, all of a sudden now you're in the middle of that mix. Let TCU have the number 4 spot, because USC's schedule down the stretch is much tougher than the competition they're facing for that 2, 3, 4 spot.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm hoping that Ohio State can get at least a 10-point win against Michigan.
Let's just hope KSU beats TCU and everything's said and done.
Well, the only things that can screw this up, if Michigan beats Ohio State in a close game and USC wins but doesn't look good, and TCU wins out and LSU beats Georgia, okay, now we've got some problems on our hands. But a lot of that stuff probably ain't going to happen. There's a 50-50 shot that TCU is going to lose one of these next 2 games. TCU has some issues. And if Ohio State beats Michigan, there is 0 chance that Michigan jumps in over a 1-loss USC. 0 chance. It'll never happen.
Matt Campbell needs that one big win of the year. He always gets it. Maybe this will be the win.
Be a good week.
Yeah.
It would be a good week. All right. We'll go to overtime. Predictions on our week 13 of Pac-12 play. This is Thanksgiving weekend. A special Thanksgiving salute to all of you. Hope you had or having a good Thanksgiving day. So we'll get right into Friday's action. ASU 2-6 in the Pac-12, 3-8 overall. At Arizona, 2-6 in the Pac-12, 4-7 overall. That'll be a 12 p.m. kickoff. These are all, by the way, the kickoff times are all West Coast times. It's going to be shown on FS1. Arizona is favored by 4 points. Mark, we'll go Marc, Chris, and myself on this. Who are you picking, Mark?
Bear down. 4 points. I'm jumping all over that. Arizona is going to clean their clocks.
Chris?
I agree. It's not saying much, but Arizona's the best 4-7 team in the country. and those two schools hate each other, so that there will be a home field advantage. I like Arizona by a couple of scores.
And I agree. I think that Arizona is going to go well past 4 points.
And Delora needs to bounce back from that game he had against Washington State. So some of the reason.
All right, number 17 UCLA, 5-2 in the Pac-12, 8-2 overall at Cal, 1-6 Pac-12, 3-7 overall. That's a 1:30 p.m. kickoff again on Friday on Fox. UCLA is favored by 9.5 points. How is this one going to go, Mark?
Just 9.5, really? UCLA. Then again, maybe they're just. I'm going to say UCLA.
Okay, Chris?
Even a deflated UCLA team is way too good to lose to Cal. They'll win that game.
I agree. I think Charbonneau's going to. I mean, Cal's got a decent defense, but I just can't see UCLA not. Charbonneau will not be down for this game. Let's put it this way. He's going to want to break that 100-yard barrier in rushing. So I think it'll be UCLA will not romp, but it's going to be a lot more than 9.5 points. So let's go to Saturday, November 26th. Number 10, Oregon, 7-1, Pac-12, 9-2 overall at number 22, Oregon State, 5-3 Pac-12, 8-3 overall. Kickoff time, 12:30 p.m. ABC. And we should mention it because it is important. If Oregon does win this game, Oregon will be the representative to face USC the following Friday in Las Vegas for the Pac-12 championship. Oregon is favored right now by 3.5 points. How do you feel about it, Mark?
Man, my heart wants the Beavers, but I think Oregon wants to get into that conference championship game. I think they have just a little bit too much offensively for Oregon State. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game, though, but I'm going to pick Oregon in a squeaker.
Okay, Chris?
I think it's going to be a dogfight. And if Bo Nix is moving Saturday, the way he was moving last Saturday, I think Oregon State has a real chance to win that game. So I think it depends on the health of Bo Nix. If he's close to 100%, I think Oregon will win. If he can't move again, I think the Beavers win the game.
God, I hope so.
Well, so let's ask this since we're at this point. If Oregon State does beat Oregon, and then UCLA does lose to Cal, which I don't think is going to happen, does that fit Washington in?
What is that tiebreaker?
There were a whole
only have for one loss.
I thought Washington had to have Utah lose at Colorado also, which I think we can all agree is not going to happen. So I don't think so. I think if Oregon loses and Washington wins, I think Utah goes. But there was actually somebody put together a chart showing all the possible outcomes. It's on the WeAreSC message board. And that chart has the answer.
Well, since we brought up Utah, how about number 14, Utah, 6-1 in the Pac-12, 8-2 overall at Colorado, 1-6 Pac-12, 1-9 overall, 1 p.m. Pac-12 networks. Utah is favored by a slim 30 points. Mark?
I'm going to do my favorite Chris Arledge impersonation. I don't even want to talk about this game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cam Rising embarrassed himself last week on a big stage. He is going to light Colorado up.
Well, I tell you, I hope that I'm not trying to count my chickens before they hatch, but I do hope Oregon wins because I don't want to see SC play Utah again. Maybe SC would like to play Utah again. I don't know, but I think it would be a far more exciting game against Oregon. I agree with Chris. It all depends on Bo Nix, how he's moving, if they're putting him in the top 4 or 5 for the Heisman, that there's something to be said about that. And that would be a good confrontation between SC with Caleb Williams and Bo Nix in Las Vegas. But I don't think that Utah has anything to worry about in this game. They're just gonna dance by him, and that's it. Any other comments on this game? I didn't think so. All right, number 12, Washington, 6-2, Pac-12, 9-2 overall at Washington State, 4-4 in the Pac-12, 7-4 overall. That's a 7:30 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. Washington is favored by just 2.5 points. What's happening on this one, Mark?
Yeah, man. Cameron Ward didn't turn out to be the special player that everyone thought he would be for Washington State this year. Defensively, I think they do enough, but Washington's offense is going to be too much this year for Wazoo. I got Washington winning it.
Okay, Chris?
I'm actually going to go with Wazoo. I don't think they'll coug it this time. I think Washington State can get pressure on Penix. And if they can, they have a chance to keep Washington's offense under control a little bit. I do think that the home field advantage is going to matter. And Washington State only has so many opportunities to beat Washington. When they get one, they're going to have to seize it. I'm going to pick the Cougars in an upset.
And I'm going to pick the Cougars in an upset because I think weather is going to be a factor in the game. They're talking about a big snowdrop coming in, and
why would that affect Washington?
What's that now?
Why would that affect Washington though?
Because I don't think Washington's used to the snow.
They're used to the cold. Okay, right.
That's not. I'm not inferring the cold. I'm talking about the snow and the cold. I think it's an advantage for Washington State. That's just my viewpoint on it. Okay, here's a real barn burner. BYU, okay, at Stanford. Stanford's 1-7, Pac-12, 3-7 overall, 8 p.m. FS1. BYU is a 6-point favorite. Mark, how do you see it?
Yeah, it's gonna be a boring game. BYU will win, and no one will be watching.
Chris?
Yeah, BYU isn't that great, but Stanford is awful right now, and I'd be surprised that they haven't given up on the season at this point. 1-7 in the Pac-12, just lost the big game last week. They're not even going to be there mentally. I like
their fans. There's going to be 20,000 here.
Yeah, maybe. Well, there. However many Mormons live in the Bay Area, that's how many fans there will be.
There will be 25,000 BYU fans there, filling out a 50,000 seat stadium.
And then there was number 13 Notre Dame, 8-3 at number 5 USC, 7-1 Pac-12, 9-1 overall, 4:30 p.m. ABC. USC is favored by 5 points. Mark?
I've already said it twice, 3 times, the lady.
All right.
20-year reunion, 44-13.
You heard it first from Marc Kulkin. All right, Chris Arledge.
It would just take too many things for Notre Dame to make this a competitive game late. Notre Dame plays pretty good defense, but they're not spectacular. They have a pretty good running game, but it's not spectacular. And they have a quarterback who is about 15 million light years away from USC's quarterback. Caleb Williams will at some point start to put touchdowns on the board, and I just don't see Notre Dame keeping up. So like I said, I think about 38-22 is the final here.
And I agree with you, Chris. I think that the pressure on Notre Dame to stop SC, and certainly Notre Dame's team realizes SC scores well over 40 points, so to speak. I just don't see how Notre Dame can hang in there for 4 quarters unless turnovers that didn't happen the entire season happen in this game. I think there's just too much pressure on Notre Dame to keep up with SC. And I think once SC starts feeling it, and once they start extending the lead, they will be really, I think, in full throttle mode. So I think we all agree on that one. And now, of course, our weekly Georgia Southern prediction presented by the unofficial Clay Helton fan club. Last week, Coach Helton's Georgia Southern Eagles lost to Marshall 23-10. This week, Helton's Georgia Southern Eagles, now 2-5 in the Sun Belt, 5-6 overall, host Appalachian State University. They're 3-4 in the Sun Belt, 6-5 overall. That's the 6 p.m. game, their time. Appalachian State is favored by 4 points. Who wins it, Marc Kulkin?
Bowl game on the line. Yeah, you know what? I think Clay Helton's guys pull it out. They get to their bowl game first year.
Well, that would be something if they could actually get to the bowl game. What do you think, Chris?
I'm not sure why it's still the unofficial Clay Helton fan club. Why haven't we made things official? I don't get that.
All right, would you be volunteering to be the president of it?
I mean, who else? Sounds like it's a really important game for Georgia Southern. So Clay will choke. Forget it. App State big.
I am going with App State as well. That would conclude Georgia Southern's record at 5-7.
Sounds about right, doesn't it?
That sounds about right. That's a lot different than 10-1 or 11-1.
I'm wondering if anybody has asked Clay the question yet. What are your thoughts on this year's USC team?
He'll say he's very happy for him.
Yep.
That it couldn't happen to a better club. He loves Lincoln Riley, what he's done, and he wishes him the best of luck.
Yep.
Be a total cop-out. All right. Well, that'll do it for Thursday's edition of Inside the Trojans Huddle. Reminder, next Tuesday, we'll review and grade this weekend's USC-Notre Dame game, discuss some timely topics relating to USC football and college football in general, as well as answer viewer and listener questions. And a reminder, of course, next week, we will be talking about the Pac-12 championship game. So we'll have plenty of that on Thursday's show. So until then, a big thank you to our panelists, Marc Kulkin, Chris Arledge, and a special thank you to all of you for watching or listening to Inside the Trojans Huddle. Have a great weekend. Go Trojans. Till next Tuesday, this is your moderator, Greg Katz, saying beat the Irish and fight on, everybody.